DC Studios Slate breakdown, Chapter 1, Superman, Supergirl. See the cosmic one of the state about this and check this out.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder. Today is the day it has officially happened. James Gunn has revealed the first chapter of the new DC slate. And let's not waste any time at all. Let's dive into the video and talk about what James Gunn has said, what he has released, and break it all down.
Hey everybody, I'm James Gunn. I'm the co-CEO of DC Studios. So as many of you know, DC has been disconnected in film and television for a long time. And it's one of our jobs, mine and Peter's, is to come in and make sure the DCU is connected in film, television, gaming, and animation. That the characters are consistent, played by the same actors, and it works within one story.
Okay, so this first part, James Gunn basically addresses the problem with the old DCEU. There wasn't really much continuity, it wasn't really connected. They need to have the same actors playing the same roles, whether that be in movies, television, animated series, and also, as he mentioned, gaming, which is really, really cool. So James Gunn and Peter Safran are coming into DC, and they're making sure that everything connects. But for those wondering about, say, the Batman or the Joker, this is what he had to say about these projects.
And if something is outside of that, like Matt Reeves' Batman or Todd Phillips' Joker or Teen Titans Go, that it is clearly labeled as DC Elseworlds, outside of the mainstream DCU continuity.
So if it is outside of the DC Universe continuity, it will be labeled DC Elseworlds. So that is very clear. That makes it to where there's really not any confusion. If it is not labeled DC Elseworlds, it is not a part of the DC Connected Universe. Now, in the next part, he talks about 4 different projects that are coming before his new DC slate begins, and also explains how the universe is going to be reset.
Now, Peter and I have gotten pretty lucky in terms of the 4 projects that are coming out over the next year. First, we have Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Shazam! Has always been off kind of in his own part of the DCU, so he connects very well. That moves directly into The Flash, a fantastic movie that I really love, that resets the entire DC universe. Then to move into Blue Beetle, a fantastic film about a kid who's a marvelous part of the DCU, and then into Aquaman 2, which leads directly into our next few projects, which I'm going to tell you about now.
So this was what a lot of us actually expected. The Flash movie is going to reset the entire DC universe, which honestly is just a really smart way to do everything. And from there, we're going to get Blue Beetle, Aquaman 2, and then we're going to dive into his new DC slate, which he has titled Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. Now, James Gunn states in this video, which he has already stated in a tweet, that him and Peter have mapped out 8 to 10 years of the DC universe. And much like Marvel has their phases, DC is now going to have what James Gunn calls chapters. And it is also important to note that he does say that this is only part of Chapter 1, not all of it. Now, the first project that he announced is a project called Creature Commandos, which is going to be a TV animated show. Now, here's something that is extremely cool that James Gunn has said, not only about this project, but animated shows and live action shows in general for the new DCU. He says that characters are going to go into live action and over into animated series and keep the same actor who voices them and plays them. And this is amazing. This is an incredible way to keep the continuity and connectivity of the DCU and not have confusion. So he's keeping everything connected very, very tightly. So I'm absolutely loving this idea. Now, Creature Commandos is a very James Gunn project. The team was formed for the Second World War. They were formed by America to fight against Nazis. They established something called Project M, where scientists realized that the enemies, or people in general, were terrified of essentially monsters. So what did they do? They conducted experiments on soldiers, turning them into monster-like beings, like werewolves, and they basically used them as a team to do special missions. So that's what happens in the comics. Who knows what they're going to do for the animated series, but I know James Gunn is a true comic fan, so I would expect something pretty similar to this. Now, the next one he announced is a live-action TV show called Waller. Now, most people know Amanda Waller, especially if you've seen the most recent DC projects. The latest one being Black Adam, and although the universe is about to reset, they are continuing with kind of the Peacemaker storyline and Amanda Waller's involvement there, because he clarifies in this that Amanda Waller will be using the Peacemaker team. So I'm assuming that this is going to tie into Peacemaker Season 2. And James Gunn seems to think that this show is absolutely amazing, and it hasn't even filmed yet. But here's where things get really interesting in James Gunn's announcement. He says next one is the big one, the true beginning of the DCU. Now this is where essentially his live action Justice League DC universe begins. New Superman, new Wonder Woman, new Justice League in general, which leads us to believe, since he says this is the true beginning, that Aquaman, Shazam, the movies that he previously listed in this announcement will not be a part of this new universe moving forward. He was a little vague about those other projects, but since he says that this is the true beginning of the DCU, we could probably assume that those previously mentioned projects are not connected to the new universe. And it starts off with Superman. And what a great way to start it off. And we don't know much about what it's going to be about, we just know it's going to be called Superman Legacy, and it has a release date. It'll release in theaters July 11th of 2025, and James Gunn is writing it himself. We then move into something that I am personally very, very excited about, and that is a show called Lanterns. And James Gunn says it's going to be a big premiere HBO series. And the cool part about this is a lot of people were talking about before which Green Lantern they were going to bring in. Is it going to be Hal Jordan? Is it going to be Jon Stewart? Could it be Guy Gardner? But James Gunn announced amazing news that it's actually going to be the story of two Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. And he also said that other ones were going to be thrown in the mix there as well, which is fantastic. But the story for this show sounds quite amazing, and what's even more exciting is James Gunn says that they discover something that links to the bigger picture of the DC universe. Now, he states that it is a terrestrial show, which means it is taking place on Earth or directly related to Earth, and he says that it's kind of like a true detective show, with the Green Lanterns being essentially space cops, with our two Green Lanterns watching over Earth. So right away, that sounds incredibly exciting. I think we can expect them to deal with earthly problems, but also space problems as well, threats coming to Earth. And James Gunn even says they discover a terrifying mystery that ties into the larger story of the DC universe. Now, I'm assuming that this is going to be directly related to the big bad of the new DCU. And this is a new universe. The big bad could be anybody. So if you have thoughts on who you'd like to be the first big bad of the new DCU, please be sure to leave those thoughts in the comments down below. Now, the next announcement is what James Gunn calls his passion project, so you know it's going to be good, and that is The Authority, which is going to be a movie. And here's what James Gunn has to say about them.
Next is a big movie called The Authority. The Authority is a passion project of mine. It's based on the marvelous Wildstorm characters we are now bringing into the DCU and will interact with all of our primary DCU characters. The Authority are a group of superheroes who think the world is broken and they want to fix it by any means necessary. I think it's a very different look at superheroes.
Now, The Authority is really cool because they are heroes, but at the same time, the world sometimes tries to go against them and take them down because they do interfere with worldly events and governments. However, they do also protect the Earth. But like James Gunn said, they kind of do it in their own way. And based off of the pictures that James Gunn showed us, we can expect to see characters like Jenny Sparks, the Doctor, Deathblow, Apollo, Swift, Jax, Hawksmoor, and Engineer. Then he announced a TV show about the Themyscira, where Wonder Woman is from, called Paradise Lost. And he describes it as kind of almost like Game of Thrones, which is crazy interesting, and this is most likely going to give us the origin of Wonder Woman in this show. Now, the next one is something I'm so excited about, and that is Batman. A movie titled The Brave and the Bold, our introduction to our new Batman. And James Gunn pretty much tells us everything that we need to know about this project.
The introduction of the DCU's Batman is The Brave and the Bold. The Brave and the Bold is the story of Batman and his actual son, Damian Wayne. This is based on Grant Morrison's great comic book run. Damian Wayne is my favorite Robin. He's a little assassin who Batman tries to get in line, and so this is the story of the two of them and the beginning of sort of the Bat family in the DCU.
So it's going to be based off of the Grant Morrison run, which includes things like The Black Casebook, Batman and Son, The Black Glove, Batman and Robin, Batman R.I.P., and many other really, really great ones. Now, in the comics, Damian Wayne is the son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul. And I must say this is quite interesting because it seems like James Gunn is introducing these new characters as younger characters. However, during the Grant Morrison Batman and Son story, Batman is pretty much at the end of his career. So I'm curious to see how this will be incorporated into the new DCU, but I am extremely excited about this. Then we get a TV series about Booster Gold, and it's awesome the way James Gunn talks about Booster Gold.
Next up is a TV series called Booster Gold. Booster Gold is one of comics' really popular cult heroes. He is a fascinating guy. He's a loser from the future who uses future technology to come back to present day and become a superhero so that people will love him. It is basically the superhero story of imposter syndrome on an HBO Max series.
So like he said, Booster Gold is from the future. He's from the 25th century. And he was a star. He was a star football player. He earned his name Booster, but he got a little greedy and he gambled on his own games, which ruined his future essentially. He became a security guard at a museum, the Metropolis Space Museum, and then he stole time travel technology, went back into the past because he thought he could use his future information to make some money and also be a superhero. And ultimately he does. He does brag a lot, he does take a lot of credit, usually for saving people, but he's a good guy. And I'm assuming this is going to be a very funny TV show. Then he announced that we are going to get a huge film that is going to be about Supergirl. It is going to be Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. We don't get a Man of Tomorrow, but we are getting a Woman of Tomorrow. So I am really excited about this project because Supergirl is going to be very different than Superman. Because like James Gunn says, Superman was sent to Earth by his real parents, and then he was raised by loving parents on Earth, the Kents. However, Supergirl was raised on a chunk of Krypton, and like James Gunn says, she watched everybody around her, parents, family, friends, everything, perish in a really bad way. So she is very different from Superman. She's very bitter, and she's jaded, as James Gunn says. And I think this is going to be a really great film. And it sounds like James Gunn is going all out for it. And last but not least, Swamp Thing, which is apparently going to be some type of a horror film. And James Gunn states that it's going to be tonally outside of the DCU. So the tone is going to be very different than all of the other projects in the DCU. However, it will still feed into the overall story of the DCU. So here we will get the origin of Swamp Thing and Alec Holland. And there you have it, part of Chapter 1 of our new DC universe. Let us know what you think about this in the comments down below. Are you excited? Are you happy? Are you disappointed? Let us know all of your thoughts. And please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to stay up to date on the latest DC news. You can always follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.
Please subscribe, like this video. Have a great day, and see you guys. Bye.